All right, my beautiful friends, we have a lot to talk about today. This is my lovely post-market wrap-up for this Friday, October 12th, 2018. What a day in this stock market. Now, I want to talk about that, and what I'm going to say may come as a surprise to some of you. All right, let's try to put a perspective on how this market traded today and what it might mean. All right, so sit down for this. Sit down. Okay, here we go. As we all understand, let's just recap a little bit. At the close of the market yesterday, right after the close, a story was put out how there may be some kind of talk between the United States and China regarding trade coming up a month or so from now. When this came out, stock futures just, went crazy, vaulting higher several hundred points. This carried through all the rest of the day and overnight, and today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average opened up nearly 400 points higher. Pretty incredible stuff. Then, something kind of strange happened after I did the video that I put out this morning. Stocks started to sell off. Not only did stocks sell off, we went from a gain of about 415 on the Dow to negative 50 on the Dow. Then we managed to climb our way back up. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed 280-ish points higher. I'm saying ish because the closing bell just went off seconds ago, and it's going to take a little bit to adjust. Now, let me put this into a perspective, and I want you to think about what I'm about to say with regard to this market. We had a substantial sell-off this week. We had an over 800-point sell-off 2 days ago, 550-something points yesterday. Today, the market all over the place. Now, if you recall yesterday, at one point, it was down almost 700, like 699, then we rebounded. So what I'm trying to say is I want you to think about how the market's been doing this over the past 2 days. Don't hold me to this, but I'm just going to throw it out here. What we might be seeing here, and I do not want to sound like a perma bull. And I get yelled at all the time for this by people. They write to me, Greg, you're a perma bull. I'm not a perma bull. I don't care where the market goes, you know that. But this kind of a pattern that we're seeing here, and I think they're going to put a lot of effort into this to keep the bond market stable, stabilize that bond market. You saw a lot of effort today going in to prop up that bond market. Well, it worked. Bonds did stabilize. 10-year yield actually came down a little bit at one point today. If they can manage to keep the bond market stable, and we're going to talk about the dollar in a second, I'm going to go way out on a limb here, and I'm going to take heat for it if I'm wrong. But this might be a setup for stocks to actually move higher. I know how crazy that sounds. I know it does. And I know we all need this market to sell off a lot more than we've seen, but it's not real. It's managed. Now let's talk about the dollar real quick. As you all know, a lot of what's going on here depends on the dollar and the bond market. There is no doubt about it. I would consider you kind of an expert with regard to these dynamics and the stock market if you follow this blog. I cover it all the time. Something happened here, and it's disturbing to me. All right, let's put that into a perspective. Just a couple of years ago, there was a guy who was really trying to shine a light on what was going on with China and being a currency manipulator, and actually had promised that he would label China a currency manipulator if he got into office. Obviously, I'm referring to our president. During the campaign, President Trump spoke out against China. Again, this is another reason why I voted for him. Look, we manipulate our currency here too. But again, this has been going on for a very long time. President Obama would not label China a currency manipulator. President Trump said he would. Well, just a few months ago, he backed off on that and said he would not label China a currency manipulator. But what happened today is clearly a rigging. China devalued the yuan. It's at an 18-month low against the dollar. So we saw the dollar pop a little bit today. This really, as long as it stays where it is with regard to the dollar value and doesn't vault higher off of some geopolitical event and the bond market stays where it is, again, I'm going to go out on this limb here and say that stocks could potentially move higher into the week, and maybe, just maybe, some of the big selling is over with, again, with this bottoming process. But there's a couple of other things I want you to consider as well that we always have to. Again, I'm explaining to you with the bottoming process and how the bond market interacts with the dollar, what's going on with regard to those things. But there's always outliers. There's always outliers. Now, let's talk about an outlier. All right? Interesting how I chose that word. In December of 2007, just a few months before the major meltdown, we were hearing from one particular individual who was talking about, sit down for this, the Bush boom. The economy was doing very well at that point. And this individual said that there was no way that we were going into a recession. Everything was just firing on all cylinders. Well, this person I'm referring to is our president's economic advisor, Larry Kudlow. It was a Bush boom then. Today on CNBC, this guy, I don't like this guy. I think he's a liar, and I think he will just say whatever he's got to say to just make things seem like they're not, kind of like he did during the Bush boom. His words, not mine. When he was on CNBC today, he was talking about the Trump boom. And he was asked a direct question by one of the commentators on the COD. I don't remember who it was. They said, Larry, we're hearing an outcry from American small businesses here who are saying they're getting hurt by these trade wars. Well, he brushed that aside. He wouldn't even talk about it. All he would go on to say was that this is the Trump boom and things are just looking really good. He would not address that question, and that bothered me. That bothers me. You know how I feel. This is American jobs, American companies. You know, he's supposed to care about that, right? I find that troubling. Let's talk about something else that we found out today that is also troubling to me, and I would love to hear from you on this. We found out that China now hit a record high with regard to their trade surplus against the United States. Well, maybe there's something wrong with the trade wars because I heard that we're winning this. I don't know. Look, like I said, nobody's winning here. There are degrees of losing. Going back to Kudlow just a second ago, American businesses, some of them here in our country are suffering. We already know about farmers. There's going to be more bailouts. Farmers got bailed out. There'll be more. Look, the whole system, again, is twisted and rigged. And let me go on a little bit about that. I don't know how many of you out here watch the Confederacy of Dunces, not just CNBC, but Bloomberg and Fox Business. Well, they were parading out. This bothers me too, and it should bother you. Let me know if this bothers you. They're parading out CEOs of corporations today who are kind of saying, well, hold on a minute. Maybe President Trump is right. Maybe the Federal Reserve does need to back off on raising rates so fast. Why would a CEO of a major corporation, especially one that's an international company, be saying something like this? Let's look at the source. Well, it's easy money they've all been using to buy back shares of their own stock. If they buy back shares of their own stock, how do CEOs get paid? Well, they get paid in stock. You understand? Values go up. So when you hear a CEO of a company coming out and saying something like that, you know the polar opposite actually should be happening. Yeah, absolutely. Suppressed rates, as I have explained to you since time immemorial, has inflated a stock market bubble. Never before in history have we witnessed corporate America get richer in a shorter period of time. Never. You don't believe me? Look it up for yourself. This is beyond anything we have ever seen before. Way beyond anything that we saw even during the Obama years. So of course, these CEOs want the easy money to keep on going. They're all ultra super millionaires, so they don't care that if you're not earning a real return on your interest earning accounts. They think you're a peon. They don't care if your dollar, dissolves with regard to purchasing power. They don't care at all. They get paid in stock, and as long as that stock goes up with all the easy money, well, of course they're going to say, I think Trump is right on this. The Fed is moving too fast. They're moving at a glacial pace, and they're way behind the curve. You know that. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. It's too much. So, metals didn't do anything today. Kind of at the flat line. Crypto is kind of the same thing. But the story, I think, moving forward is watching what is going to happen. And again, just my take on it here. And I will cover this on Sunday when I do my Markets A Look Ahead segment. I will cover where I think the market's going. Let me just say this. This week is the first losing week I have had in this market in a long time. I've been long this market. You all know that. I refuse to short it. But this week was out of control. Some of my trades got caught on the wrong side. That's this business. You know what? I can't complain. I've had one losing week here out of, the past couple of months. I think that's a pretty good record. But again, let's think about what may happen next week. Stuff I covered here, I will cover again on Sunday. And we'll see what happens, how that whole thing falls together. Anyway, it's been a very interesting time for me, and I'm sure for you too. Again, as always, people, if you think this is interesting, the stuff I discussed about China and the currency manipulation, or Kudlow, or the markets, or how it might be bottoming, if this makes sense to you in any way, share this video. Get it out there. If you're part of my team, I'm counting on you. Now look, you know what I'm going to say. This is a Friday. Let's put this week behind us for the most part. All right, we do have to think ahead. Again, we're not like animals. We don't live in the moment. We always got to think a little bit down the line here. But seriously, people, love each other, care about each other, and be charitable. That's really what all this boils down to. Because in the end, we're not taking anything with us. And you know that. So I will see you Sunday. You're all great. I love you all from the heart. I mean that from the heart. I'll see you Sunday for my Markets A Look Ahead segment. Over and out.